Edward ran off to go get the flashlight, and Grandma's standing now hovering over where her granddaughter just fell into it. She's like, Darella, what is going on with you? Are you okay? And Darella looks up and she goes, Hello, my good people, and welcome back to Onyi's World. My name is Onyinye. If this is your first time here, you are most welcome. I hope you can grab yourself a comfortable seat. If you are one of my returning viewers, thank you for sticking in there with me. Anyway, as you can tell by today's title, I am about to have a nice little sit down chit chat with you all. I have been a fan of C.S. Lewis since I can think. Even back home in Nigeria, I read his books with hunger, and homeboy can write. Homeboy has a way of communicating concepts that you just, you can't miss it. Anyway, so I was sitting talking with my kids and I thought to myself, to pay homage to C.S. Lewis, I need to borrow or recreate some of his titles. So that's what I'm going to do today in this video. I hope you all enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get right in it. A long time ago, a couple decided that they were going to sell all of their earthly goods in their home nation of Nigeria and move to Canada in search of greener pastures. Well, they did so, and their mom, aunties, uncles, everybody went to the airport to see them off, and they promised that they will come back and visit as often as they could. When this man and his wife arrived in Canada, they spent a couple of years kind of establishing themselves, making sure they got good jobs before they started having kids. When they decided to have kids, they ended up having 4 children, and their names were Pierre, Susie, Edward, and Lucinda. Little Lucinda was called Darella. And she was a brat because from the time they had Edward to when they had little Darella, there was a span of 5.5 years. Well, anyway, after these children were born, their parents tried to give them the best, which is what all parents should do. Put them in private schools, got them private drivers, private tutors, made sure they had a home that was equivalent to living in the Hamptons, all kinds of things that people who wanted to flex their affluent muscles would put out there in the world. They lived in a nice house, they made good money, so they could afford those things. Well, fast forward to 2020, and this evil disease came through the land, and it was called COVID-19. I wonder where I got that from. But when COVID-19 hit, you guys, Mama and Papa got put into a financial straits because first Mama lost her job, and then not too long after, maybe a couple of months, Papa lost his job too. Well, all of a sudden they could no longer afford that affluent lifestyle that they were used to, and they called their children together and told them, you have to go home to Nigeria. These kids, you could have told them that they were up for sacrifice because that was the last thing that they wanted to hear. Anyway, whether they wanted to hear it or not, it had gotten put out there in the atmosphere and they had to go. Their parents took what was left of their savings, bought plane tickets for each kid, and told them that when they were able to get themselves reestablished, they would come take them back with them to Canada. Well, after hearing this, their very rotten little girl, Lucinderella, remember little Darella, she pitched such a bloody fit. She had tears rolling down her eyes, snot coming out of her nose, and she looked at her dad and her mom and said, I hate you. I wish that the earth would just open and take me to a different world. I do not like being your child. I don't know how it is that you know all the things that a brat would say. Lucinderella put it out there. And when her parents, who were very apologetic to her, understood her frustration, or they hers was a little carried away. You don't come. They put them all in the plane, and the whole flight home, Lucy is crying. Lucinderella is crying, weeping, just being thoroughly inconsolable. Her siblings are also sad, but nobody wanted to really show her how they were feeling because little Darella was showing out. Anyway, they arrived in Nigeria and they were already pitching a fit on the flight because this was not their first time in Nigeria. While they were living the big boy lifestyle, they visited a few times. And every time they visited, Darella will always give attitude like, I can't live here. Oh my God, look at the floor. Look at the dish. Everything's so sticky. Everybody smells and everything's so hot. She popped off that mouth. But this time around, there's no popping off. You are not visiting. You are coming here to live. So, and she wasn't going to live in the city. No, Grandma was not based in the city. There's no Lagos for you. Grandma was based in the village. And that's exactly where they had to learn how to live again. So when they arrived in the village, their dad had come with them. It wasn't just the 4 kids. So he dropped them off. When they arrived in the village, dad made sure everything was okay. The kids were put in school. And then he sat his kids down and said, listen, grandma is in charge, and grandma is not a parent like I am a parent. So make sure that you behave for her. Lucy the whole time is rolling her eyes, almost getting it stuck in the back of her head. And her father's like, Lucy, you're going to have Lucinderella, Dorella, you're going to have to listen to your grandmother, and you're going to have to behave. Otherwise, she's going to get you. Well, she didn't care what her daddy said. You know, her siblings, Pierre, Susie, and Edward, they were kind of, they knew what was coming because they were a little older than her, but she was just stuck in her little bratty ways and I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm going to show out. In Nigeria, you are going to be shown very quickly where your break is this. Anyway, they set them up for school. Dad boards a flight and goes back to to Canada. They're not in the United States, y'all. I'm in the United States. They're in Canada. Dad gets in the flight and gets back to Canada, and then the kids are left with grandma. Well, grandma sits them down, and grandma lays down some house rules. This is my bedroom. Nobody goes in there without permission. Lucinderella and Susie, y'all are going to share that bedroom in the house that your father built while he, was making good money and actually put down some good property so y'all can have a place to lay your head down. And then he told Pierre and Edward that they were going to share the 3rd bedroom on the side of the house. And then grandma pointed down to the room at the end of the hallway and said, under no circumstance are you allowed to go in that room. Stay away from that room. And they all said, sure thing, whatever. Well, the first day of school rolls around and the kids get they get dressed. They put on their tacky uniform. They were so poor that they couldn't even afford to buy their own uniforms. They had to be sewn for them. So everybody is pitching a fit on how itchy or how misaligned their hands are, all kinds of carrying on. And they took their behinds to school. When they arrived in school, they, found their classes. And while the teacher was talking, little Miss Dorella decided that she was going to pop off because she thought she was back in Canada. Well, what had happened was her teacher then recruited 2 of her peers to hold her, one to the hand and one to the legs. And they made sure that Dorella's midsection got a little bit of stimulation, and Dorella could not believe that she was put in such a system where beating her was okay. So she did that a couple of days. The second day she rose up to give attitude, and the teacher brought her back down really quickly. So on the 3rd day, Dorella decided that this thing here, this Nigerian school system, was not for her. She's not going anymore. And she knew that just by saying I'm not going wouldn't do anything. So she, the whole night while everybody was sleeping, she decided that she was gonna fake it. So when they woke up the next morning, homegirl woke up coughing. What I just did, I can't do in public because the room was clear. Nobody wants COVID. So, she starts coughing, sneezing. She found a way to rub her hand and make herself get kind of warm. So, her grandmother came over. Grandma looked at her like, all right, before they say I beat up your Canadian-born baby, I'm just going to let her stay home today. So grandma informed Pierre, Edward, and Susie that little Dorella was not going to school that day, that she was going to stay home and recuperate, and then she will see how she fared the next day, whether she'll be going to school or not. Well, Dorella's plan was that when everybody left, she was going to make a run for it. Now, up the road from the house, from where they lived, was a little pub where there was a shopping little plaza where you could get clothes, you can get perfume, all sorts of things. And then right next to that was a nice little restaurant area where you can eat. And then, they had yogurt and other things that people wanted. Because they had been sent back home with not a lot of care money, Grandma said that she was not going to spend any of the money that was given to her to cater to their palate, especially when it was not nutritious food, that they could just stay home and eat. So Rella decided that when they left, she was going to treat herself. So her siblings got up, got dressed, and went to school. Grandma grabbed a bucket, grabbed her little farming tools, and went onto the farm to get some fresh vegetables and the things that they could use to eat. Anyway, as soon as everybody left, The sick Rella, who was in the bed, immediately felt good enough to jump up, look left, look right, listen real closely, make sure nobody was there, and up she went. The first place she went straight to was in Susie's stuff, because Susie shared a room with her. So she ransacked everything. She went digging through. And Susie was very good about keeping her stuff well and making sure that what needed to be under lock and key was under lock and key. So that disappointed Dorella, who then got up and proceeded to go into her brother's room. Close to the bed was Pierre's stuff, and Rella pretty much knew not to mess with Pierre's stuff, because not only was Pierre good about keeping his stuff private, he didn't keep any money on him anyway. So Rella went straight to Edward's bed. Now Edward was a little clumsy, and Edward always had money. He had a work principle that he was going to find a way to earn money. So Rella knew that Edward had money. So she walked over to his bed, and just as she predicted, all she had to do was pick up Edward's pillow, and right under his pillow, homeboy kept all his money. So Rella, the Rella, being the greedy little thing she was, didn't know to take some and leave some. She grabbed everything, and honey, she took off down the road to that pub and shopping plaza, and she had the time of her life that day. Well, a little bit before Rella expected for them to get off, she started hearing the sound of kids walking towards her. And this, while she heard this sound, she was sitting there eating her little blue slushie, just gulping it down and enjoying it. And when she heard it, she poured the rest of it down her throat and began to head towards the house. And the more she walked towards the house, the more she began to look around and see that she was seeing some of the kids from the school. Well, she asked one, and she was like, "Why are you guys home so early?" And she goes, "Well, some of the teachers are deciding to strike, and since there's nobody to teach us, the principal went ahead and shut the school down for the day, and we're headed home." Well, little Dorella decided that she was going to run, because she did not want her siblings to catch her outside of what was supposed to be her sick day. So she ran back in the bed, pulled the blanket over her head, and as soon as they walked in, as filial siblings, they walked right up to her to check up on her. So she, I had such a hard day. But they're like, "Oh my goodness, bless your heart." But as they're empathizing with her, little Edward leaned in and he says, "Dorella, why are your lips blue?" She goes, "My lips are not blue. What are you talking about?" And he immediately remembered that there was a pub up the road that sold that little blue slushie. And he goes, "Dorella, I know you have no money. So where did you get the money from that oh my God." So he got up. And as soon as he got up, Susie went to check to make sure her stuff was intact. Nothing was messed with. And Pierre and Edward to their room to check up on that. And when they arrived, all of Pierre's stuff was good, but Edward ran straight to his pillow and flipped the pillow up, and sure as the sky was blue, his money was gone. So he ran right back to Ella's bed, and he said, "Ella, you stole my money. Ella, oh my God, do you know how hard I worked for that money? We already don't get any more allowances." And Rella, knowing that she had really stepped in the cow's poo-poo this time, she got up in the bed and she started fidgeting. I didn't touch anything. I don't like when you accuse me. This is why we don't get along as siblings. Well, as Rella is fussing with Edward, she begins to hear and all the kids simultaneously looked towards the door, and they said, "Grandma." Well, if you know one thing about Nigerian grandmas, is that you don't mess with them. At least you don't mess with my grandma. She'll come for you. So soon as Rella heard Grandma coming in, she already knew what was coming for her. Grandma was not soft. Grandma was not meek-natured. Grandma would beat your butt. So Rella took off from her bed, and the only way that Rella could run was down that hallway. Rella took off down the hallway, and right behind her was Edward. Edward was like, "Rella, Grandma's going to get you. You need to come and tell." Rella was not hearing anything anybody had to say. She was running straight down that hallway and straight for that door that Grandma said nobody should ever go into. Well, the closer she got to it, the more Edward screamed at her, "Rella, we are not supposed to go in that." Fell on deaf ears. Rella grabbed that door, opened it, and when she tried to open it, it was locked. So she threw her body against it and forced it open. As soon as she forced it open, she noticed that in that room was just one tiny little closet door. That was all that was in there. And she's like, "Well, at this point, I don't have any choices. I gotta go hide in the closet." Like hiding in the closet is gonna help her out. So she dashed in there. Edward was right behind her. Grandma, who's heard all this commotion, was right behind her, both of them. "Get out of that room. Oh my God, you these children. What are you doing? Don't go in there." Too late. They ran in. Rella grabbed the door to the closet and slung it open, and homegirl just leaped into the closet. Well, very unfortunate for Miss Rella. The closet didn't have any, didn't have no floorboards, and she went doof right into what Grandma told her never to step into. And when she fell in there, Grandma, Edward, who was right on her heels, ran in, and he was like, Rella, and then she just doof right in. And he stopped just short of falling in himself. And he's like, oh my God, Rella, are you okay? Rella, are you okay? So Edward ran off to go get the flashlight, and Grandma's standing now hovering over where her granddaughter just fell into it. She's like, Darella, what is going on with you? Are you okay? And Darella looks up and she goes, Unfortunately for Miss Rella, this door that Grandma told them not to ever open led to the closet that they wouldn't have needed to open if they never opened that door. And that closet was the door that the people who came to clean the septic tank used to put the hose down to get it in. So Miss Rella fell right into all that constipation and diarrhea. She was covered from head to toe, you guys. And the reason why she was going was because she didn't want to open her mouth. She didn't want it to get into her. Oh, you guys, can you imagine? Oh, dear goodness. But anyway, Edward, who ran away, had gone to get a flashlight because, it's dark down the hole that Miss Rella just fell into. So Edward dashes back and he turns on that flashlight. And the moment he flashes it around, Susie and Pierre had gone to go get like a rope so that they could help Rella come out of the hole. Well, Edward sits there and he flashes the light back and forth and he locates Rella. But while he was working on locating Rella, the other thing he located was the roaches. You guys, the Madagascar-sized roaches just crawling along. Y'all know what happened? Miss Ella fainted. Little Rella fainted, and guess what dropped open? It wasn't the poo, it was her mouth. And, that was where Grandma was like, this sugar will not kill me in this lifetime. And all the effort that went into trying to bring her out, you can imagine how much of a mess they found themselves in that situation. Now, right off the bat, I can think of many lessons that come out of this story, but I want you all to let me know what you learned in the comment section. Make sure you load it up, and then if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Come along with me as we build this community of people who enjoy laughing. And until the next time, I will see y'all. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.